Hello friends, welcome back to the series of lectures on advanced distributed computing. Today we are going to study client server model and IPC. IPC means inter-process communication. We all know that using internet through www, that is World Wide Web, we are using different services, web services, like we are using email, we are using FTP, file transfer protocol, we are using several social media networks, social media websites. Now what is this web service? Web service is the service offered by one electronic device to another electronic device, communicating with each other via the World Wide Web. We send emails, we send pictures, we send files, we send video files from one computer to another computer through World Wide Web. This is one example of client-server model. When we send any data on World Wide Web, we use clients. It can be your laptop, it can be your mobile phone, or it can be your desktop. So you will send data through the internet to the server, and server will process that request sent by the client, and it will send response back to the client. For example, if you are using your mobile phone and you browse for fmt.ac.in using a web browser, in that case your web browser is a client program and you are sending that through your client device through the internet, the request you are sending to the server, and server will definitely search that request, it will process that request, and it will create a response and it will send that through the internet back to the client, and you are able to view that website on your mobile phone. So this is one example of client server model. Now we will see what is client and what is server. So in previous example we studied that we can use a client program and client device, and we can send a request to the server. Server will process that request and it will send response through the internet. Now we need to understand that client can be two types, that is client can be a machine or client can be a program. Now in this example you will observe that this is mobile device, this is desktop computer, this is laptop, and this is tablet. So all these devices are client machines. You can use these machines and you can send request to the server. So in this case all these are the client machines. Now what is client program? Client program is the program which allows users to send requests to server program on server machine. For example, web browser. We normally use web browsers like Chrome, Mozilla, and we type the request something like fmt.ac.in. So we are using the client programs which will send a request to the server program on the server machine, and server will process that request and will send us the output. That can be a, in our case, in this example, that can be a fmt.ac.in website. There are so many other applications also who are working as a client programs. For example, Microsoft Word. Now when Microsoft Word works as a client, for example, you want to download some theme or you want to download some template from the Word database or Word server, you are using your Microsoft Word as a client because you are sending a request to download that particular template which you will use to create your document. So in that case your Word will be working as a client program. Same with the Photoshop. We use Photoshop. We download so many themes to create different type of flyers or different type of invitations. So when we try to download any theme or template using PS, that is Photoshop, our Photoshop software is working as a client program. Same with the PUBG. PUBG nowadays is very popular game. PUBG game uses the client server model. We know that you can install PUBG on mobile phone or you can install the PUBG on desktop also. So the program, the software which we install on mobile phone or desktop, it works as a client program. Whenever PUBG will release new update or PUBG will release new map, we are using PUBG client to send a request to the PUBG server, and we are downloading whatever the updates provided by the PUBG using our client program. So the PUBG installed on your mobile, PUBG installed on your desktop, it is working as a client program in this example. So the summary is, client can be machine or it can be a program which creates requests through the web. Now we will move to the concept server. Now what is server? Server is a computer program, and we need to understand that normally we call a server machine as a server, but the program stored on the server machine is actually called as a server, and this program provides different functionality and it serves to the client request. So that's why it is called as a server. It serves to the client request, that's why it is server. Single server can serve to multiple clients at a time, that is possible, or we can run multiple servers at a time on a single machine, that is possible. For that we need to use virtual machine concept. So it is possible that multiple servers can run on a single machine at a time. Types of servers are a web server, something like Apache HTTP server, or a database server. These are the types of servers. So the summary is, a server can contain web resources, host web applications, store user program data. It is used to serve hundreds or thousands of clients at a time, and a server is always listening for requests. As soon as it receives one, responds with a message. So client server model is the architecture on the network which splits computers in two sections: computers that ask for resources through the request and computers which responds to the request. These are the two sections created by the client server architecture. So in this example you will see that this is a client which may be using JavaScript or HTML. It is sending HTTP requests to the server. Maybe at server side we are using PHP, MySQL, etc. programming languages. So whatever the server request, client request sent to the server, that will be processed, and the HTML and CSS output will be created, and that will be sent back to the client. Now that can be a web page or image or JavaScript. So that HTTP response will be sent back to the client. This is one example of client server model. Next model is peer-to-peer model. Now what is peer-to-peer model? Client server model is based on a centralized structure, whereas the peer-to-peer model is based on the decentralized structure. Decentralized structure means what? There is no client or there is no server. Both computers participating in this type of communication can be requester or can be responder. That means the computer is capable of working as a client and working as a server. It is called as a peer-to-peer structure. Video chatting platforms are the example of peer-to-peer model, and uTorrent, BitTorrent, these are the examples of peer-to-peer model, where you will observe that if you want to download or if you want to upload anything, there is no need to stay 24 hours online. So whenever you will be online, that content will be downloaded, or maybe your content can be fetched from other computers. Windows 10 is also using peer-to-peer model to send or to download the updates provided by the Windows. So here we have completed client server model and peer-to-peer model. Next we are going to study is inter-process communication, that is what the IPC. Now what is inter-process communication? For that we need to understand two type of processes. In operating system, in distributed operating system or in operating system also, we have two type of processes. One is an independent process, second one is a cooperating process. Now first we will see what is independent process and cooperating process, and then we will move to the inter-process communication. Now what is independent process? Independent process is the process that cannot affect or be affected by the other processes. Independent processes does not share any data like temporary or persistent with any other process. So you need to understand that independent processes in operating system, in distributed nature also, they cannot be affected or can be affected by other processes. They are independent. Whereas one process can be affected or can be affected by other processes executing in the same. These cooperating processes shares data with other processes. Now we can take example of the processes which require other process to work. For example, if you have two variables and the variable 1 have stored a value in process 1 and variable 2 have stored value in the process 2, and to do some arithmetic operation or to do any type of operation, you need help of both process 1 and process 2, then they need to send messages to each other. So these processes are cooperating processes in that case. So without cooperation, you cannot get the actual output. So now we will move to the next part where we will try to understand why process cooperation is required. In previous slide, we studied two types of processes, independent process and cooperating process. Now why cooperating process are allowed in operating system? There are 4 reasons behind it. Number 1 is information sharing, number 2 is computational speed up, and number 3 is modularity, and number 4 is convenience. These are the 4 reasons why we allow processes to cooperate in the system. So number 1 is information sharing. It is possible that in distributed system, multiple users will try to access same piece of information. So there should be an environment to allow concurrent access to this type of resources. So that's why information sharing is very important in distributed systems, and that's why process cooperation is allowed. That is one reason. Second reason is computational speed up. We know that if we want to make the system faster, we need to divide a task into subtasks. So whenever we will divide one task into subtasks, they all will execute in parallel and we can achieve the speed up. Definitely we need a number of CPU and IO channels. If we have them, speed up can be achieved. The third reason is modularity. Now what is modularity? Constructing system in modular fashion, that means you will divide the system function into separate processes or thread, is desired. So whenever we design any system, whenever we design any software or whenever we design any website, we divide the tasks in modules. Suppose you are designing faculty information management system and you have 3 team members in your team. So you will divide the tasks in modules, and one module will be assigned to one team member, and all these modules finally you will integrate and you will create one system. So definitely you must need some communication in between that modules so that they will work as a one system. So here in this example also we need process cooperation, and last one is a convenience. See, for our convenience, most of the time we allow different processes to run at a time. Okay, so the synchronization is required in their actions so that we can use multiple programs at a time on our system. So these are the 4 reasons why process cooperation is required. So now we will move to the next part, that is inter-process communication, IPC. In a previous part we studied that why cooperation is required in between the processes. We studied that there are 2 types of processes, cooperating processes and independent processes. In cooperating processes we need inter-process communication because there are 4 reasons that also we have studied. So now we are going to study what is IPC. IPC is a mechanism which allows processes to communicate with each other and synchronize their actions. The communication between these processes can be seen as a method of cooperation between them. Processes can communicate with each other through 2 methods. Number 1 is shared memory and number 2 is message passing. So as we studied, there are 2 methods of IPC, inter-process communication. Number 1 is shared memory and number 2 is message passing. Now in shared memory, memory is shared by the cooperating processes which can exchange information by reading and writing data. So suppose process 1 want to send some message to process B, it will write that particular message in shared area and process B will read that. So this reading and writing of data, through the reading and writing of data, information is shared in between the 2 processes. Whereas in message passing method, message passing facility has 2 operations, send message and receive message. Message passing is easier to implement compared to the shared memory for inter-process communication, and it is useful for exchanging smaller amount of data. Now with the help of diagram we will understand what is shared memory method and what is message passing method. So in this diagram you will observe that this diagram depicts shared memory method and this diagram depicts the message passing method. Now in shared memory method you will observe that process 1 is communicating with process 2 through this shared memory. So whenever process 1 want to communicate with process B, it will communicate with process B through this shared memory. Process 1 will send the message to the shared memory, it will write that message to the shared memory, and that message can be read by the process 2 because it is a shared part. So from shared memory, process B can see what the message sent by the process A. This is how the shared memory works. Whereas in the message passing, you will observe that every process have this message M represent message. Okay, so suppose process A want to communicate with the process B, instead of it will write or read or write in shared memory, it will send a message to process B through the kernel. It will send a message to the kernel. Kernel will search the recipient and it will send that message to process B. So this is how the shared memory method and message passing method will work in IPC, the inter-process communication. In today's lecture, we have covered client-server model, then peer-to-peer model, and IPC, that is inter-process communication. Thank you very much.